I consider myself a storyteller first and foremost, and basically a dramatic storyteller.
Dick Wolf, one of the most provocative storytellers and producers in the history of television. His wit and brilliance have contributed to the success of Miami Vice, Hill Street Blues, and all 4 Law & Order series, now the longest-running drama series in television history.
Law & Order is probably the only show that was sold to 3 different networks. That it was initially, Barry Diller ordered 13 episodes for Fox, then called back 2 days later and said, I must have been out of my mind, this isn't a Fox show. Then we went to CBS and made the pilot, which did not get picked up, although they proclaimed to have loved it while we were making it.
He's a bad man? Was, if you believe the rumors. Oh, this really frosts my cookies, Max. You mind telling me why you didn't tell me? Because you're already leaping to conclusions, for Pete's sakes.
And then two years later, basically, it went on the air at NBC, but that was a process where we wrote scripts and then they just ordered the 13. That's the nature of television. You never know what's going to work. The shows that I was absolutely positive were going to be huge hits usually weren't. That when you create a show, all you want to do is get past the first 13. It's not even what's episode 13, it's what's episode 130. That at a certain point you're not starting out to do a show just to get a show on. The only purpose in doing a show is to get something that can go 110 episodes, which is that magic syndication number, because 110 episodes allows you to strip the show 5 times a week for 22 weeks, which is a media buy. So there wasn't a second pilot. There was the first pilot that was an orphan, and then episodes. The actual history of the creation of Law & Order has nothing to do with storytelling. The original concept was almost a business concept. How could we get something that could be split? And this seemed to give us a unique opportunity by doing both a cop show and a legal show in the same hour, that they were almost 2 half hours linked by you're under arrest at the half-hour break.
Hey, Don Juan, you're under arrest.
The reason that cop shows have always worked is that its drama is what are the stakes, and the stakes are life and death in both medical shows and cop shows. So it is the most dramatic form to work within, and there are infinite variations. The structure of Law & Order was 180 degrees, though, away from both Hill Street, which preceded Vice, and Vice, in that both of those shows were basically character-driven dramas. The storytelling, that's why I was brought into Miami Vice, basically, is that there were no stories. It was all character, and they needed more structure. Hill Street had structure, but it was really an exploration of those characters. One of the things that was imbued in Law & Order from the beginning is there are no character moments, that the character information is doled out with eyedroppers as opposed to soup ladles. When Brandon Tartikoff said, what's the Bible for the show, I said the front page of the New York Post. And when you've got a daily newspaper that comes up with headlines like headless body found in topless bar, all you have to do is go, yeah, that's an episode. It doesn't really matter what the body copy is. That top-of-mind headline is what the audience basically remembers, and always gives you a jumping-off point to do something that is similar to that, but doesn't have to bear any resemblance to the actual case.
These are their stories. These are their stories. These are their stories.
The basis is on all the shows is just tell a good story, that you've got people for an hour a week, entertain them, have it make sense. I mean, the perfect Law and Order episode is one that's like falling dominoes, that every scene falls into the next scene seamlessly. You never get lost, but you never hear information twice. And it's a process, that there are some stories. I will give you one hint. Every episode says this is a work of fiction and does not refer to any living human beings or whatever the phrase is. That's always on the back of the episode. When it's on the front, it's really close.
Real-life situations are essential to Law and Order and often focus on controversial issues that press the line of free speech.
If there is an operating philosophy on the shows, there is nothing that happens in this country or on the planet that's black and white, that everything is shades of gray. And the shows try to explore those gradations rather than point to anything except the curtailment of free speech as a black and white issue. Because once that's curtailed, you're on a very slippery slope towards not having free speech and not having access to all the information that you should be privy to or publicly privy to. That it is very easy, once certain things are put into play, to keep free expression, to keep the open interchange of ideas at a level that most people would find unacceptable, but some people would. That there is a huge danger in having other people decide what you can read, see, hear, or speak. And it is the most basic freedom in this country. It is what has made this country great. And that is a major focus. Anything that curtails that, to me, is a negative. Anything that you have to have the free interchange of ideas. Special interest groups are interesting because they have special interests, and they, the wonderful thing about Law and Order is that